2. Check, check. Okay, it's working. I'm assuming it's working. Let's open a new document. We're going to use the brush set that you're going to. You download my brush set. I'm going to use my brush set because I'm me. I go to this brush or the chalk brush, one of those two. I'm going to give this one to y'all. This is my super special brush I love using. It's a hair brush. It's a hair brush with a dual brush setting. If you want to know what a dual brush is, we go back to the brush menu. Remember the brush menu from window menu brushes? Like we said, we're going through the shape dynamics. We said the scattering makes go everywhere, right? If I activate texture, it's going to do exactly what you think it's going to do. It's going to add a texture to it. And I can select these default textures that are super terrible, or you can load in your own custom texture. So up here, you can say load patterns, save patterns, replace patterns. You can load some default like artist surface. So I guess I have like what got canvas, load a canvas texture. Anyway, let's turn that off. Dual brush is what I use on this particular brush. And what dual brush does is it takes two Photoshop brushes and like combines them together into one Photoshop brush. And the way that Photoshop brush is affected by the second brush can be changed by you. So I can go over here and say, so you notice when I click dual brush, it opens this brush menu. It's asking me, hey, what brush do you want me to mix into this other brush? And I'll say, I want you to mix in this circle. You see how it changed the look of the brush? I can go up here and say, I want you to use color burn to affect the circle with the other brush I'm using. You see how it's changed the look of what we're utilizing, right? So now I can click on a different brush, like I want to use this weird line thing, and I want overlay. Overlay doesn't seem to do much. Multiply. Hard mix. Hard mix did something. I want hard mix to affect it. Now look how the quality of the stroke has changed. And it's actually taking up a lot more processing power because I'm making two brushes actively work together at once. So it's like I'm using two tools at once. And I'm live streaming. So keep in mind that it's not going to be as slow if you're working without the internet on like that. Let me just turn this back to default. So the default, let's just go back to my menu. Click on my chisel brush. Here. There we go. So this is my default brush, right? So this is what I want you to. So I want you to go home and work, right? So I want you to go home and like play around on the canvas, right? And eventually, you're going to keep playing around the canvas, and you're going to get fed up just making marks. You're going to want to draw something or paint something. So pick a brush. You can pick from my brush menu any of these. Like I said, these first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. These first 12 are for painting and drawing. All the rest are for special use. Here's a cloud brush. Makes clouds, right? From painting in, like see the clouds, see how realistic they look. I switch between black and white. This one, sorry. Some black and white. Make clouds, thunder clouds, right? Go through, play with all these brushes. Okay. Like I said, though, you're going to want to draw, you're going to paint something. So, no, let me do it right now, actually. Right here, in class, online. They'll be online at the blog. Use Squarespace. It's a really great service if you want a portfolio website, by the way. It's like $100 for a year, but it's really, really intuitive. It looks really nice. And it's super easy to do. So here's my blog. I'm going to add a post right now, and we will And if right now, if you want to get onto the website, you can actually download the brushes now if you have Photoshop open. Some of the features of the brushes might not work in CS2, but most of them will, because they are like older versions. Okay, so listen, intro to photo. Sorry, digital painting. Here are my brushes. Okay, so now click here. This is how easy this website is actually. I click here and I can add in filters this product. I guess they'll be up later tonight. I think get them online. What's the best way to do it? DeviantArt? Yeah. I'll link you to my DeviantArt. I'll do that right now, though, in case you want to log on now and get it. Yeah. All right. Here we go. There you go. All right. There is no mature content in this. Digital art. I'm going to say is this a powwow going on? If you're just joining us on the live stream, or if you're listening in on this, you can find the brushes at DeviantArt. I'm going to link it on my blog, though, so just get onto the blog, you'll find it there. You'll find it online later, and if you hear drums in the background, there's a powwow going on. Does this not work, girl? Oh, it's preview is required? Oh my god, that's what I was waiting for? Alright, here's a preview image. There's something I think it's easy to do. Let's do that. Here we go. What do you need? What can I help you with? Reset the canvas? Delete it? Okay, Control A, delete. It's going to ask you, hey, do you want to use white or what? And then Control D after that. Right. I'm going to move over to Photoshop where that decides to work. Alright, so here, let's just start. We'll start working. This is how I start, okay guys? Digital painting, I'm going to talk in general terms now. Painting is about shapes and tone. Drawing is about contours and line, obviously, right? So like when you start painting, you want an interesting composition. Composition is the makeup of the entire image, right? So one of the ideations, one of the ways I do this is I'll just start making marks on the canvas. I don't have any new layer, I just start working. And I'll just start making marks until I see something. Okay, and when I'm sketching, this is what I do, right? If I have a real project I'm working on, I normally have an idea, I really sketch it out in my sketchbook. But if I'm just sketching like to paint, just to practice, I'm just doing this. I'm just kind of building out tone and shapes. Just keep making, I mean, I not really have any, there's no goal in mind, but right now, what I do see is like a creature, right? And also I do lots of creatures and characters. I do lots of horror imagery. So right now what I see, let me make a new layer. This new layer is going to represent what's going through my mind right now. I see this as a face. I see head. And then here's chest, right? Do y'all see what I see, kind of? You see there's like a creature forming here. So if I divide it, head, and then this is all chest, right? So as I'm just making this mess, I'm starting, it's like looking at clouds. I'm just seeing stuff form. So D, using D, I'm switching between black and white, and I'm just building on this now. So now I've kind of got an idea that this is going to be some kind of creature. I'm going to start refining. It looks kind of, to me, it looks kind of like a merman, like a creature from the Black Lagoon, and I'll start cutting in so you can see what I'm talking about. So right now I'm affecting the silhouette by just painting in white. So I'm using the negative space to really reinforce what I see, right? Okay. Here we see. I'm going to come in and start doing some features in the face. The eyes are going to be somewhere around here. I'm going to loosely put in some tone, and all black and white, all grayscale. And that's mainly because I just want to think about the form And by form, I mean the three-dimensionality, like the appearance of 3D, right? Because it's not really 3D, it's all 2D. And as I make my marks, I do what's called like a form wrapping. As I start seeing the creature, I start picking out the muscle groups, and I start wrapping the muscles with strokes of a brush tool. So you'll see I went from randomized mark making, and I've started isolating the cylinder here, the cranium. And I'm only going with the curvature of the skull of this creature. He almost kind of like a stormtrooper right now. We'll go back in here and start adding some lighter values. Okay. Let's cut in. Let's form a mouth. Make like a big mouth. Part of me wants to make this guy kind of like looking at us. Like right now it's super like a straight profile. So I'm going to start turning the head by adding tone to the side of the head. I'll start showing the inside of the mouth. I'm just going to correct. All I'm doing is sitting here correcting the silhouette, correcting the shapes I see. This is my layer to show you what I was thinking. That's all that was. I'm not working on any other layers. When I'm sketching, just to sketch ideas out, I just work on one layer. I'm all about just getting pixels onto the canvas as fast as I can so I can just have fun. I haven't really increased the brush size till just now. You should have worked with a bigger brush. I kind of doing it backwards. I kind of was working really small. But it doesn't really matter. Some people say, try and keep the brush size one size until you're ready. But whatever, do whatever you want. Just draw, paint. You're going to hear every artist give their advice, and you can be selective about that. Even the advice I give, if there's something I'm doing, and like y'all know Photoshop way better than I do, in terms of photo manipulation or like document setup, you can be like, I'm never going to do what he's doing. But in terms of digitally painting, this is intuitive for me because I've drawn all my life and I've drawn in sketchbooks all my life. So for me, just being able to get a black value on a white surface is like essentially what I've always done all my life. But I've always just been drawing with pencil and paper. I'm really building and I'm keeping it pretty loose because I'm not quite sure what I want to do yet. I'm almost thinking it could be, if I want to do merman, I could come here and cut in the gill. And I start adding gills to the merman. Oops. See that little line that just popped up? That's only because I'm live streaming. That doesn't really happen. Okay. So you build, and I'm building on experience from painting and drawing. I've been drawing all my life, and I've been practicing painting professionally for the past 2 years. Like, I pretty much paint and draw every day. I mean, I have to draw and paint every day because I have to be on top of my game in order to do what I do. And I'll tell you right now that I'm not. I've been 2 years in this industry, and it took me about a year to just get to the point where I could actually get clients. It takes typically 2 to 4 years for people to go from not knowing how to draw to being able to start getting their first few clients. 4 years is normally the mark for like getting bigger, mid to big tier clients. And I talk to you in terms of a professional artist because that's the only terms I really know. My background is in production design, costume design. I used to work at the Haunted House full time. Worked there on and off for 6 years, but 2 years full time. I trained the actors. I've always had creative jobs, but I left House Torment to pursue full-time illustration. So, I work for game companies. I work for like card game, board game companies, RPG book companies, and right now I'm currently working for a toy company creating some assets for an application that will be coming out soon. But it's across the board. I try and target, what I want to do is target my career for visual development. So like designing creatures and basically what I used to do, but like for movies, you know. or video games. I like the movies better just because of the nature of the beast. I'm more used to it. So right now I got to make some crucial decisions when I'm painting. So like, if I want to apply lighting, I've already got. Here's another thought layer, right? So this layer, I would never do this normally. I'm just trying to show you what I'm thinking. I'm thinking I could do lighting. Oops. I'll show you how to do that in a second. See how I turned it from grayscale to color? I'll show you that in a second. I'm trying to think about how I'm going to do lighting. So I'm thinking maybe here, right? Because it's already kind of come in this direction. This side's darker. But that's kind of how this image has just turned out so far. I need to really make a decision. So like maybe I really want strong lighting from behind, and like maybe we'll just do like a rim lighting from here, right? So if that's the case, I'm going to take a lighter gray from the image by pressing I. I'm going to make a whole new layer. And then I'm going to set the layer blend mode to multiply. So now, layer blend mode, let me explain that a little bit, and I'll do it as I paint. The multiply layer blend mode takes whatever you got in your layer, and it uses that info to darken the layer below. Okay? It mathematically darkens whatever you do. So if I take this really light gray, and now I'm painting on a multiply layer, it's going to come out darker. And I can take an even, I'll take a more mid-tone gray, this gray here. See how dark the stroke is? But look how it's not really painting over so much as it's darkening everything, right? So I got there, I created a new layer, and I went here, this little drop-down menu, and I went from normal to multiply. Okay? If I switch this back to normal, it's just gray, right? Photoshop. If you use photo manipulation, you may have used these before. If you use it with signage, you may have used this before. But Photoshop's saying, hey, layer number 3, I want you to mathematically darken the layer below you. So here's how these work. Let me just keep this open. This set of blend modes darkens the layer below. This set of blend modes lightens. This set is literally a combination of these two sets. So everything these do is combined with this set. So what this set does is it affects the overall contrast. So it'll darken darks and lighten lights. Or it'll darken lights and lighten darks. This mode affects color. These mode affects color. These do strange things like they invert the color, or they'll take like difference means literally take a different color. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's just put some red on the canvas. And you notice how the red's darkening, because remember, the layer is set to multiply, so whatever I use is going to darken the layer below. And let me make a new layer. I'm going to paint the same red. See how light the red actually is? It's not actually that dark. So now let me just cycle. I'm going to cycle through the blend modes for you to show you what they do. Dissolve. Dissolve is great for screen printing. It takes anything that's not 100% color and it turns it to 100% or 0. So you notice how if I turn it back to normal, you've got like these little blurry. Let me do this. It's a really light stroke, right? And it's low opacity. Now if I set that to dissolve, it forces it 100% or 0. You know, there's no in between. It's good for screen printing because there is no in between of screen printing. It's just flat ink. Darken. Darken's really powerful. So what darken does is it takes the data and information from the layer you're using, and it says anything below this layer that's set to darken will become as dark as the pixels of this layer. Let me show you. So let me turn it to gray just for the sake of this. The color complicates things. Let me just take out saturation. And I'll tell you how I did that in a second. You probably already know how to do it. But I'm going to move the pixels by pressing V over. And see what it's doing? I'm sorry, I said it backwards. Darken what darken is doing is it's darkening. No, yeah, I got it right. Anything that's not as dark as this gray will become as dark as this gray. But anything that's darker than this gray remains the same. So the eye was black. Let's see what part of the eye was black. So nothing will, this layer mode doesn't affect the black because that gray is not as dark as the black. If I switch the lightness of the gray, let's switch it up a bit. I'm going to boost it to a light gray. Well, now it's barely affecting anything, right? Because there's so many more dark grays in this image. Like if I actually put it on the dark gray, nothing happens because there's nothing to darken. But if I put it on the lighter image, it's still affecting it. So this gray is going to darken all the lighter parts. Okay. Color burn. Color burn. Okay. Oops. Switch that back to. I'll switch it back to normal. I'm going to darken this a bit because these darken blend modes only work as long as the values of your layer are on the darker side of the value range. So if I have my layer, let's say I have this set to white, okay? Let me move it over so you can see where it is. See it's set to white? If I click multiply, there's nothing to multiply, right? White, there's no data to mathematically darken the layer below because it's white. So okay, so now let's see. I changed it back to gray. All right, so like I said, you need to have the saturate. I'm sorry, you need to have the value of the layer you want to use on the darker side of the scale. Right. So let me set it to color burn. The color burn doesn't work on white, so you already noticed something happened. If you look at the layer, you still see there's gray, right? But it only affects values darker than white. So I'm going to move over, and you'll see the shape appear, right? So it's taking everything that wasn't white, and it's just dropping it down, right? The special aspect, when it comes to painting, one thing you can do with color burn, if I go to the layer and turn the opacity down, naturally makes it more transparent, right? That's what you'd think happens. But if I change the fill, which is the amount of pixels in the layer, it behaves differently. See this? Like a 50% fill is like pure black. Let me go to 50% opacity. 50% opacity is like turning like a darker gray, right? Boost it back up. 50% is still black, right? You see how it's kind of just eating away at the edges with the fill mode? So certain layer blend modes work differently depending on the opacity and the fill. And I think I remembered all of them. But color burn's one of them. Linear burn's one of them. Color dodge is one of them. Linear dodge is one of them. And I believe pin light and linear light and vivid. I think these three. Pardon me. I think these four. These four are also, they change depending on the fill or the opacity. And there's no, all that means is there's different options for you to play around while you're painting. So multiply. So, okay, great. So darken, multiply darkens everything. As long as, so like, let me move, see, multiply darkens the white. Multiply darkens the darks. Like it's even, like, it sunk the blacks even, like black. Like it won't go any further black now. If I click here, it's right, yeah, right at 0 almost. Darken, it only darkens any value above this gray. So let's click this gray. It says 36%. Anything darker than 36% will be preserved. Anything lighter than 36% will be darkened. So everything, yeah. Multiply just darkens everything. Multiply is great when you're shading. So let me show you how this would. So I want to apply lighting. I'm going to click one of these mid-tone grays. I'm going to make a whole new layer. I'm going to press G for the paint bucket tool, click it, it just fills the layer with pixels. I'm going to switch it to multiply. Now multiply is darkening everything, right? I'm going to create another layer, oops, click, and now I'm going to set the layer to overlay. And like what I said before, these blend modes in the, if you're listening online, in the third column, I guess in the third row, these affect both the lights and darks. Where these affect lighter, they make everything light, they make things dark, these do both at the same time. So what does that mean? The overlay is exactly what it sounds like. Whatever I'm going to start painting with, it will be overlaid onto this. So if I click bright red, now it's set to overlay. I'm going to start painting. And it's overlaying the red on top of the gray I've already painted. So this is a way that if you're trying to think about how you're going to color your thing, you can sit here and go, well, let's see, let's just paint them red, see what red looks like. Right? And if it looks too intense, I can come over to the opacity and tone it down just a little bit. Maybe tone it down more. In the real world, nothing is like that intense, right? Except for like a flower. So maybe like over here, right? We'll turn it back to 100%. The other thing the overlay is doing that's not as noticeable, because it's set to red, let me just desaturate it for you. Let's just take it, saturation, all the way down. Let me turn this off. The overlay affects the value. Okay? So what it does, let me erase this layer now. Not erase, I'm erasing the contents of the layer. Let me set D, black and white. I'm going to, oops. I'm going to select my little airbrush here. And the airbrush is right at the top of the brush set here, the second brush. So, set to overlay. I got black and white. If I paint with white, it's going to boost the brightness. It's also, if you notice, it's also kind of like pushing the darks down. See the black staying black? It's not boosting up. Let me switch it to black. Same thing. Let me go over here, over the eye. Oh, actually, you don't have to have white. Let's just pretend I already had white right here. See what I did? So let me show you what I did. Turning off the overlay layer. I painted white on top of the dude, right? Let's put the eye. Let me make the eye white. The black doesn't affect the pure white, right? The same way the white does not going to affect the pure black. Overlay only works on the grayscale, and when you work in grayscale, you can push and pull your image with the overlay layers, as if you have an actual light on your image, right? So let me recreate that. I have a menu key set up. I press overlay and it just makes it for me. And I'll show you how to do that too. But right now we'll just focus on the basics, and we'll go into this stuff later. So I want the shadow to be on this side. I'm going to do general big broad strokes. And I want the light to come right in the center here, and then there'll be some right here. Let's do that. And I'm going to turn down the fill. The fill, and for overlay, fill and opacity are the same. You know, like 50% fill and 50% opacity are virtually the same. Now, if you do them at the same time, of course, it boosts it down even further. Let me just tone it down a bit. So you see how I've started creating a shadow and a light source? Okay. So now, if I'm sketching, this is how I really sketch, right? So I'll make my creature or whatever I'm painting. I'll decide a light source. So I've got 3 layers. I got my drawing, I got my multiply, I got my light source. I'll make one more new layer, and I'm clicking this hotkey menu. So this menu says add layer. I click that and it adds layers. Actually, you know what? I could save this. I think there's a way for me to save this menu so y'all can install it and use it. And I'll try that when I get home and see if that works. So now this new layer is set to normal. So, oops, normal. I'm going to just pick out the values within this image now that you see, and I'm going to start using those to paint with. Okay? So I'm working like 4 layers up. I'm going to go ahead and pick out this messy little brush I like to use. And I'm just going to start pulling the values around and defining what this thing is. And because I've painted a lot and I know how to, I've done, like, so okay, if you want to know how to get better at painting things to look 3D, you need to just buy some fruit or vegetables and set them in front of a light in your room and practice painting what you see. And that's how you get better at painting like light sources and making things look real. Okay, so I'm just going to push and pull the values around, and I'm working from the light source outward. And here I'll color pick this halftone. I'll use that to work, and I can see so there's like a brow here. So I'm going to start wrapping that form. Here, little form I can wrap here. This form, I'm going to scrape across here. And the way I digitally paint, it's all about form wrapping and build up. Okay. Let's lighten up the teeth a bit, just like kind of showcase the teeth. Let's go ahead and fix this. So I'm gonna pull this. I'm gonna go ahead and drop in some black. I'm gonna change my brush to this super basic circle brush. It's the let me see. It's the 4th brush down. So if you're following along with this later, we're gonna watch this tomorrow and just skip to this part. It's the 4th one down. D gives me black. And I'm just gonna paint in the silhouette. The reason I'm doing this is because I'm just wanting to cut out his shape and really like explore what this thing is. This is all sketching too. Like, so I don't do this if a client has hired me for a job. I don't just play around and be like, come up with this thing. Like, they tell me what I want, what they want, and I have to do it. And if there's a specific illustration that I'm planning on doing, it's a series of sketches, and then a series of thumbnails, and then a series of like practice sketches, and then I start the final. And I'll show you all that in a second too. I'll pull up a document. But this is just if I've worked all day on a client's project and I've like literally been drawing stuff I just don't want to draw all day long, and I want to stop and take a break to work on just a practice. This is what I do. Right? I just draw a monster out. I work fast. I've been drawing all my life, so if you're not getting this stuff down as fast, it's okay. Unless you've been drawing all your life and you're just like super crazy good. I mean crazy. I mean, like, I don't think I'm crazy. I think I draw monsters a lot, so drawing monsters is easy for me. If you asked me to draw like little girl with the dog, yeah, it would have been like. I mean, it would look somewhat like that. I use this chisel. Let me open the brush tool. The very top brush is this. Look, I call it the chisel. It's not called the chisel, but it's just a slanted brush. I use this slanted brush to carve out shapes. So I come in here and I'll start like making big decisions. Like, and it's still like wrapping the form. I'll pull the darker value, bring it back, pull it. You just keep going back and forth, and I slowly just work that way, right? So the reason I used the brushes I did was because the first few ones gave me texture. And they threw down so much texture. Now I can come in with this really smooth brush and pick out what I like and erase what I don't like. So like this, I like this light gray, so I'm going to come in here and like bring that light gray around. And just take it, like what I'm doing is I'm kind of making a little circular motion because I'm imagining I'm like brushing, like I'm scrubbing a statue, like I'm just trying to like clean it. Just kind of sitting here, scrubbing away. Okay, and we're going to start getting into some more illustration and like painting fundamentals in a second. So you don't ever want pure black or pure white in your image. And the reason that is, Mainly because pure black and pure white don't really exist in nature. You know, nothing is actually pure black. Like this Wacom tablet's black, right? But then, like in the sunlight, like, if you actually were to go into Photoshop and color pick what you see, it's actually kind of like light bouncing off. It's kind of a gray. Like his Acer computer, like it looks black, quote unquote, but it's the black color, but it's actually kind of like a really dark gray. Because if it were just pure black, it would look like a void, like of nothingness, right in the middle of the room. Or if it's pure white, it's a light bulb of the sun, right? So don't ever use pure white, don't ever use pure black, because that doesn't exist in nature. So you'll never need to paint with it right away. With that said, when you do introduce your pure black and your pure white, you always do it at your focal point. So like, right now I got lots of black in this image. So there's different ways I could handle that. So like I said, remember, there was blend modes that lighten, right? I said there was some that darken, there's some that lighten. So let me use first a blend mode. So let's do a new layer. I'm just going to pick any gray I want. I'm going to pick this darker gray here. I'm just going to pick G, press G down for the paint bucket tool. Click. Fills it up. Now I'm going to go up to normal. Remember, these first 5 darken. These next 5 lighten. So if I do lighten, it's the same thing as the darken layer but reversed. So it's taking anything that's not as light as my gray and making it as light as my gray. But you already saw that there were these grays that were lighter. Remember, because I picked a darker kind of, I said I want to pick the darker gray over here. So now it's preserving the lighter grays. So it's the exact opposite of darken. Lighten and darken, literally the opposite words, right? But that did what I wanted, right? It took all the black out. And there's not pure white, so I don't really need to worry about pure white. But it didn't, there's not pure black. But it's a little too much, right? Let's try the next one. Screen. So screen is going to behave exactly like multiply is, but in reverse. So screen is just going to lighten everything across the board. Color dodge. So I don't know if you saw it. Let me turn it off. Color dodge doesn't affect black. The same way color burn didn't affect white. So they behave as opposites, right? So I could use color dodge and like I could boost up. Like if I wanted the guy to look like he was brighter overall, I could go, huh, he looks brighter. Or I could just, I could add on an adjustment layer. And we'll go more into this later if you don't know what I'm talking about. But if I go to adjustment layer, there's this thing called brightness and contrast. There's this icon here. Click. Brightness, contrast. Click. Turn up the brightness. Turn up the contrast. It's almost the same as what that, color dodge layer did. I just went completely blank. So, all right. Let's try linear dodge. Linear dodge add, so what this does, it's a combination of the screen and color dodge mode. So it's going to lighten everything like the screen does, but it's also going to boost the lighter lights at the same time. So like there's color dodge, the screen, linear dodge. It's a combination of both. You have a question? Oh, okay. When you are working, when you really get into this painting stuff, you got to make sure you take breaks and get up, stretch your arms. If you really get going into it, you're going to get to the point where, like yesterday, like I just had my shoulder aching because I was just sitting here working. You sit there for hours working and you don't think about it. You got to get up, do arm circles, you just get up. And it's probably not going to be a big issue right now, but later on, if you really get into it, lighter color, darker color. So darker color and lighter color, they're the opposites of each other. Lighter color allows all the lighter colors to show through. Darker colors allows the darker colors to show through. It looks really similar to darken. It's exactly the same as darken, right? But it's behaving differently. Behaving differently because darken is literally pushing everything down to a darker color, but darker color is pulling the darker colors up. So So it's reverse of each other, but the reverse of each other ends up looking the same, right? Because I used the same gray. Now, like I said, overlay. One thing about overlay, if I have 50% gray, let's go over here, I'll type in 50, enter, G. If I type in 50%, turn it on and off, overlay doesn't work on 50% gray, okay? It only works with extremes, so like right in the middle, it doesn't do anything. So if I just go a little bit lighter than 50% and start painting, it's gently lightening it, right? So let's go back to my goal. My goal was to get rid of my black color. So, new layer. I'm going to take a darker gray. Press G, fill it up. I'm going to use the screen layer. And I'm going to take the opacity and I'm going to turn it down to 20%. Like right around here. So there's no more pure black. If you look, I color pick it, it's about 10% black, right? The mouth. About 10%, like right at 8. Let me just boost up just a little bit. There you go. So, yeah, now it's right around 10%. So now, okay, so the reason, like I said, the reason I did that is because I don't want pure black, I don't want pure white. I don't have pure white in my image. But if I did have pure white, I'd probably just use multiply layer and cover the whole thing. I already did that. Remember, I did that a few steps back. Remember, my first sketch was in black. It was black and white on. Oops. My first sketch was black and white on white. Then I added a multiple layer. So I already erased all my whites. I boosted up the contrast to add lighting. I started cutting out the background because it just looks messy, right? This is just a sketch. I'm not really going any place with this in particular. Now I turn down the blacks. So I'm trying to stay in the mid-ground because I'm trying to push and pull. I think about clay. I'm just trying to like extrude and push in. Intrude? I guess intrude. I'm going to add new layer. And so now I'm going to click, let's see, I'm going to click this lighter gray. And I'm going to turn this layer to multiply. I'm just going to cut in the shadows now and like start carving out. Like this is a brow. It's probably got like a nose. It's probably got another eye, right? So like the other eye is going to be somewhere over here. Remember, it's going to darken everything. So I got an issue where I want to affect the silhouette, but now because it's going to darken everything. Nothing is black now. I'm going to do. This is what we're going to do to fix that problem. I'm going to take all the layers, and you don't have to do this. So this is how I work. Because this is just a sketch. I'll take all the layers previous. I'm going to hold Shift. Let me do that again for you. Click, hold Shift, click down. I'm going to merge the layers by pressing Control E or Command E. So this is just one image now. The reason I'm doing that is because this is just a sketch for me, and I don't really want to be that precious with it. I'm not going to like work on this for a week and like make this really great painting in the end. So let me start, carving out the nose, carving out. Let's see, got a brow. Got this like part of his cheek that's sunken in. The inside of his mouth can be a little darker. We can add some more lighting here. I say lighting. We add more shadow here. So I'm breaking the silhouette, right? Like I said before, like there was an issue, right? And we're breaking the silhouette, and I want to not do that. I don't want to go outside of his head. So I click this button. It's the mask layer. This little button here is like a square with a strip on it. It creates a mask. Now the mask is like masking tape when you're painting a house. So anytime I paint black, I click the layer, click the mask. When I click the mask, my colors disappear. It turns black and white. Let's go back to the mask, black and white. So if I paint with black on the mask, it's like putting down masking tape. If I paint with white in the mask, it's like pulling off the tape. If I paint with gray, it's like putting down transparent masking tape. It doesn't really exist, but so let me just start painting it. I'm going to start painting it with black, and I'm just painting around my dude, because like I said, I don't want to go outside of the silhouette. I don't want to do that. So this mask will allow me to continue and not affect the background layer. Right? Switch to white. If you make a mess, like I made a mistake just now because I accidentally erased some I didn't want to erase. Okay, so if you now look, the mask layer has this little shape I just painted it. If you click this button here, the quick mask, it doesn't matter. Anyway, it's there, right? So I can control click or right click my mask, disable mask, turns it on and off. See the big X and enable. If I click option, oops. Whatever. You can delete, you can apply. If I apply it, it'll actually erase my layer. It says, okay, so you wanted me to delete everything underneath the tape, and it applied that. I don't want to do that right now, but I could also add mask to selection. Click that. It selects everything I painted on the mask and says, hey, this is repainted. That comes in handy in a second. So let me do this. Let me just deselect, Control D, Command D. I'm going to press L for the lasso tool because remember I accidentally switched my hotkey. Let me go back. So here's the thing. I switched L. The lasso tool is, for me, a lasso tool is A because I don't like putting my hands on the right side of the keyboard because I'm right-handed, so everything's to the left. So A is my lasso tool. Accept. Okay. A. Here's my lasso tool. Okay, I'm just going to quickly outline this dude. I'm going to go select this portion, hold shift, now it's the lasso tool with a plus sign, continue selecting. You can do it section by section, you can do the whole thing, just for the ease of being able to like kind of get some of the shapes here. I'm holding shift the whole time. And let's say I do this, so I go oops, and I went outside, I don't want this area, hold option or alt, and it turns to like a minus sign, and it does just the opposite, right? Just erases it. Option or alt. Alt for PC, option for Mac. Okay, so the reason I'm selecting this dude is because I want to mask out everything around him. Oops. All right. Okay. Click on the mask. Oh, quick mask was selected. Okay. The reason that wasn't happening is I clicked quick mask and I shouldn't have clicked. I just lost my selection. I press undo and it appears back to me. Turn off quick mask. Oh, okay, weird. So, quick mask is selected. I'm just going to switch to the bucket tool. I'm just going to dump the bucket tool in. So in quick mask mode, anything that's red will be erased out later, right? And if you've used this before, it's Q, hotkey Q. I'm going to deselect. I'm going to press the same button here. This is the quick mask button. It's different from the regular mask button. So the quick mask did is it allows you to paint. I just did a really redundant thing. So it allows you to paint with red, and then when you turn off the quick mask, it has that area selected with a marquee. I selected it with marquee and then painted and then reselected the marquee. It was redundancy, but now I'm clicking my layer. D for black, but when you have the mask selected, D is actually reversed, so it's white and black instead of black and white. So I'm going to have to press X. Paint bucket tool. See what I did? It has everything around him is black. He's in the white. So now I'm just going to deselect everything. Okay. So now the thing I wanted to do, which was I wanted to come on the side and start painting some details in. And now I can do that, and the mask is going to protect everything else, right? Okay. And this changes, so like my eraser tool, your eraser tool has its own brush, so you got to go up to here to the brush. It's the same menu as your other one. You got to pick out whichever. I want the soft brush to erase with. Come back. So, I'm sitting here, and this is how I'll work. Keep trying to add depth, put depth in. Now, if you want like a really stylized drawing, we'll go over that in another demo. But if you're thinking like, I just want like 2D cartoons, dude, like, first thing is it's not really digitally painting, because it's actually more like digitally drawing. But I'll show you how to do that. In terms of painting, so I'm going to build up my values. It's a slow process. This is it. This is digitally painting. For me, this is what I like to do. There's 1,000 different ways to do it. Because the rest of the class is going to be about learning those different ways to digitally paint. And I'll go through another one of these. This is kind of my own process, but I'll go through it more in depth. Because I have to kind of stop and I'm stopping and talk. Oh, the shadow's going the wrong way. But I kind of like that. So let me do a new layer. We're going to reinforce that lighting. So the shadow, so I got some light coming from here. So I'm going to reinforce that by coming in here and just paint out these like gills. Default, back and forth, cut in here. So actually I'm painting with pure black again, which I got to remember to fix that later, and I will in a sec. So you can come in here with pure black if you want, and then go, like I have my eraser set to like an airbrush, so I can just glaze over it, and it kind of erases my black a little bit. It just tones it down. Instead of having to click a new layer, I just flip my pen. And that's different from what I'm using my brush for now. So at this point, I'm just going to be pulling colors from the image that's already there. And I say colors, I meant values, because there's no color yet. Because remember, black and white, value is black and white, hue is color. So when we get a little more in depth with this, you're going to understand why I'm saying all this. And if you ever get critiques online from somebody, someone gives you feedback and they're like, your values are off, or the color looks too saturated, there's two different things, right? They're not the same. You got to remember that. So building up, so I'm just kind of, it's the same process at the beginning. I'm just looking for shapes and trying to exploit what I see. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to figure out the nose right now. That's what I'm trying to do. So I'm like, okay, the nose could be more human-like, kind of like maybe like right here, like a skull kind of nose, flat. Or maybe I should make it more like a fish thing, And most of my brushes, the drawing and painting brushes, the pen pressure is set to opacity on most of them. Because like I said, I have a background in drawing with pencil. And for me, that's normal. I know lots of people that have the brushes are set to fade because it's more like painting with real paint. Because after a while, the paint fades away. You run out of paint in your brush strokes. So here's like, so again, my my color is going on to the background. I don't really want it to. So I've already made a mask. So now I can click this mask, hold Control or right click, add mask to selection, go to this top layer, hit the mask button, there. It just applies the mask to the new layer on top. So I don't have to keep doing that. I don't have to keep selecting it over and over. Now that this selection's been made in the mask, I can utilize that whenever I want. And I'm noticing that there's like, see there's like a light value defining his face. I don't really want that. So I can go back in here and edit my mask. Like I said before, black removes, white includes. So I'm going to use the white to, I'm sorry, I'm going to use the black to, no, I'm going to use the white to expose that edge a bit. It's real subtle there. You can see it kind of like taking over there. Okay. So just keep working on this layer now. So this is how it works, right? And I start thinking about composition and stuff too. So digital painting, it's all about the final image. If you're illustrating, you're trying to tell a story in an image, right? If you're trying to do concept art, you're trying to sell an idea or a concept. And I say concept art, I mean entertainment design concept art. I don't mean conceptual art, like gallery. Conceptual artist, it's very different. So right now I could decide, because this is Photoshop, I could go in and say, you know, I want to just merge everything. And I'm going to lasso tool, like I press A or L. In your case, you're going to press L. I'm going to loosely lasso tool this guy. He's so rough, I'm not too precious with him because he's not really finished at all. Like, I don't need to like be careful with what I'm doing because I don't know how long I've been working on this dude, but it hasn't been too long since I started. I can go to Edit, Copy, which is a Command C or Control C, or I could cut, Command X, Control X. I'm going to cut. It's going to disappear from the background. I'm going to take this background color, press G, fill it in, press it again to make sure it completely fills it in. Now I'm going to edit, paste, Command V or Control V. There he goes. So I got options now. So I got the guy, he's separated from the background completely. He's on his own layer. I could make a new layer, Control click, create clipping mask, and if I want to paint within this dude, like we already talked about this before, I can come in here and paint within him. Right? Okay. I'm going to delete that layer because what I want to do is I want to shrink him a bit. I want to start adding a body. So that's like my goal, right? I just want to make this actual dude just standing. So I'm going to, huh? Oh shit, maybe I have been painting one. I don't know. Edit, free transform, Command or Control T. You can use these handles to adjust size, shape. If you hold Shift, it locks his proportions. Okay, hold Shift, shrink him a bit. I'm going to add a new layer underneath him. So I click the background layer, add new layer. Oops, I need to delete that one. Select black just for the sake. I'll select a dark color. I'm going to come in here and start painting out a body. Oops, I'm not dark enough. And right now I'm just going to think about like how I'm going to, here's his arm, maybe go back here, going backwards. Start adding the body. Okay, I'm going to, at this point, I've got like 2 minutes left. We're going to go ahead and start wrapping up. That's a little bit of how I paint and sketch, right? So that's like day 1. You've got a basic idea of how Photoshop's working. I'm going to close this. We'll save it. Save it as a class demo. I can actually put the demo files online for you if you want to download the demo files and pick these apart yourself. Let me do that real quick. I'll upload those. Close, okay. I'm just going to open one document for y'all real quick just to show you like a finished illustration document. Which is black tide. It said black witches. Here we go. This is a large file. Well, it's not too large. So I think this is the right one. If you go to my website, there's actually a processed GIF of this image. But just real quick, I want to show you. This is the same process I used for this illustration. And this is the work file, so this is a big file. And I can make this available to you. I'll make a lower a smaller sized one, just so it's not such a huge file. But you can go through all the layers and take a look at this image in particular and see how it's set up. We've got 1 more minute to go. I'm going to get those documents online tonight. The live stream, if you want to rewatch anything, if there's something that you wanted to rehear from me, you can go to livestream.com. My email, michael@mciii.net. This is michael@mciii.net. It's on my website too. Email me with any questions directly, or yeah, you can email Carlton. Oh yeah, I've never done that. So I always work zoomed out, never zoom in. If you're really going to start digital painting, get used to working whole canvas in your view. And you only zoom in for the focal point of your image. You don't need to zoom in on everything, because if you zoom in on everything, I can show you my old work next class, where I zoomed in on every single thing and made everything look perfect. And it doesn't look as good as stuff that has a focal point, right? Because you don't know where to look. And we'll explain. That's more art fundamentals. So like this image here, let me just pull this up. New doc, DXG. You can go to my website. I'll have a blog post tonight. It'll just say, here's all your stuff. Yeah, www.mciii.net/blog. Here's the sketch this image started from. Just black and white. I started in gray in this case. The finished image. Various effects. Let me just show you. I just want to show you. Let me shrink the icons. Small thumbnails. There. So here are the layers. Right. This is a personal piece, right? So I would never show this. I'd never do this for a client's document and like send them a gajillion layers. Like I just send them the final image. All they see is a flat image. But I can start turning off this stuff, and you can start seeing progress. There's subtle changes, and just keep adding and building and building and building. This piece took me about, I think I want to say it was 20 hours. In terms of work time, if you're really trying to get something down, really make it look rendered. Most illustrators spend about a week, 40 hours, 40-hour week, work week, with a full work week on an image. More is, I mean, like, it depends, like, how many characters you're trying to draw. Just keep in mind, this is like, it's a slow thing, right? It's not going to be, it's not like what you think it's going to be, right? You're going to work longer than you've worked on other things when you're doing these digital paintings. And I'll show you methods of how to do faster stuff later. But in the end, if you just want to paint and you just want to learn how to like utilize the stylus and the brushes, it's going to take a while.